What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'll be talking about Shane Van Gisbergen and how I think he'll perform in the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Shane Van Gisbergen will be back in the NASCAR Cup Series for the second full-time season of his NASCAR Cup Series career, but he will have a different number in the 2026 season, as Shane Van Gisbergen will switch from the number 88 that he had in 2025 and will drive the number 97 car in 2026. That number 97 is very iconic to the Van Gisbergen family. Plus, the 97 is where Shane Van Gisbergen won a majority of his Repco Supercar races, in that number, and all three of his championships came with that number 97. And also, of course, he won all three of his Xfinity Series race in 2024. He picked up those wins in the number 97 machine. He'll have that number in 2026. Now, let's go back to 2025. Shane Van Gisbergen had an up and down season in the 2025 year. It was definitely up, where he had a lot of road course wins in the 2026 year, where he won 5 straight road course races. Those came at Mexico City, the inaugural event at that track. Then he won at the Chicago Street Course for the second time out of the 4 races we've ran there. Then, of course, he won at Sonoma Raceway, going back-to-back in that event with the Red Bull machine. Then he won at Watkins Glen, and then he won at the Charlotte Roval, getting 5 road course wins in a row. That's the first time in a very long time that a driver had won 5 straight road course races in a row. The last time I believe the driver had broken that record was Jeff Gordon and maybe Chase Elliott, but I don't remember exactly. But it had been a long time since a driver had a ton of road course wins in a row. But Shane Van Gisbergen did have some up and down performances on the ovals in 2025. On the ovals, he, of course, had a couple bad finishes to start, like a 33rd place finish in the Daytona 500, a 23rd place finish at Atlanta. He did not win the first road course race here, where he finished in 6th. Then he finished 31st at Phoenix, 34th at Las Vegas early in the year. And then he finished in 32nd at Homestead, 34th for Martinsville. Then he had a really good run in Darlington, where he finished in 20th. Then he finished 38th at Bristol. Then he had a 29th place finish at Talladega, followed by a 22nd place finish at Texas. But then he started having some really good runs. At Kansas, he finished in 20th. Then the Coast 600, he finished in 14th position. At Nashville, he finished in 25th, was running inside the top 20, but strategy kind of screwed him out of a shot of going and getting a great finish there. At Michigan, he finished in 18th. Then, of course, like I mentioned, he won Mexico. Then at Pocono, he finished 31st after a couple times getting caught up in wrecks and incidents. Then he finished in 24th at Atlanta. Then, like I mentioned, he had back-to-back wins at Chicago and Sonoma. Then at Dover, he qualified up front because of how they kind of didn't have qualifying there, but he fell out of contention, finishing in 30th. Then he had a top 20 finish in the Brickyard 400 in 19th place. Then at Iowa, he finished in 31st, and then Watkins Glen, he finished first. But this is where he started picking up on the ovals. He had back-to-back top 20 finishes straight, finishing 14th at Richmond with one of the most impressive runs we've seen at that track. And then he finished in 16th place at Daytona International Speedway. Then he followed it up by having 4 finishes of 25th or worse, finishing 32nd in the Southern 500 after strategy did not go well in that event. Then he finished 25th at Gateway. And then he finished 26th at Bristol and finished 32nd at New Hampshire. But New Hampshire is where also he started having consistent top 5 and top 10 speed. In that New Hampshire race, Shane Van Gisbergen had a really good run going, was running inside the top 5 and top 10, qualified around 10th position, and was charging his way up to the front and looked like to be one of the fastest Chevrolets in the field. And you never know, he could have been a factor to go out there and pick up the win in victory in that event. Then at Kansas Speedway, despite the fact that Shane Van Gisbergen did have a penalty where he went a lap down early in the race, he got the free pass and charged his way back up and scored his first oval top 10 finish in the NASCAR Cup Series. Then, of course, he got the win at the Charlotte Roval. And at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it looked like he was going to maybe get his second straight oval top 10 finish in a row, and his third straight top 10, but unfortunately got caught up in a crash late after restarting inside the top 10. Showed really good speed in the 88 car in that event. And then he had back-to-back top 15 finishes in a row, with a 11th place finish at Talladega, nearly scoring a top 10 there. Finishing 14th at Martinsville, where he had top 10 speed throughout a lot of the day. And then he finished in 24th position at Phoenix. As the season progressed and went on, Shane Van Gisbergen continued to improve. And I think that's going to be something to watch out for in 2026. Because like I said, while he did struggle early in the season, He got better as season progressed and went on, and I think his oval progress was better. In fact, I think he was the most improved driver on ovals from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. He contended for a top 20 in points allotted this year in full season standings, and Shane Van Gisbergen would finish 12th overall in the standings like we talked about earlier in the year, but I think he showed a ton of progress and a ton of improvement throughout the 2025 season. So the big question we have to ask ourselves is what is changing for SVG going into next year? One big thing that also did happen for Shane Van Gisbergen is he did sign a multi-year contract extension with Trackhouse Racing. There was some talk early in the year whether Shane Van Gisbergen was going to stay with Trackhouse Racing after 2025, but after winning 3 or 4 road course races, because it came down between him and Daniel Suarez, it basically because Connor Zilisch was really good in the lower series, but Daniel Suarez did not really step up to the plate, and Shane Van Gisbergen really did. And I feel like Shane Van Gisbergen throughout the year last year outperformed Daniel Suarez in pretty much every type of track, and not just even the road courses at this point, because Shane Van Gisbergen was having top 10 speed, while Suarez was struggling in points throughout the year. So big changes for 2026. Obviously, nothing's changing on the crew chiefing side. In fact, he will be the only driver that has the same crew chief in 2026, because you'll have Ross Chastain, who will have Brandon McSwain on the box in the 2026 season, and Connor Zilisch, of course, will be going Cup Racing, driving 88 in the 2026 year, and he will have Randall Burnett as a crew chief. It transitions over from Richard Childress Racing to be the crew chief for him in 2026. So I think Connor and Randall Burnett are really going to gel very well together in the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series year. So then you got SVG. Like I said, the 97 car is back. He will continue having a lot of the same sponsors in 2026. Obviously, Red Bull and WeatherTech are confirmed to be back. They're going to sponsor Connor Zilisch in a lot of races in 2026. Those are going to be the anchor sponsors for him. I would expect that those two sponsors are still going to work with him, but I would also expect some other sponsorship with Shane Van Gisbergen next year, probably Wendy's once again, probably other sponsors like Safety Culture will be back on his car in 2026. And not only that for Shane Van Gisbergen, but he's also going to be able to run some O'Reilly Auto Parts races in 2026 as well. While the number of races have not been announced at this point, he is going to share the number 9 car with Ross Chastain in 2026. His crew chief is going to be Philip Bell in those events, where he will get the chance and opportunity to work with Phil Bell, who won with Sammy Smith in 2025. He'll get the chance and opportunity to work with him in 2026 in those O'Reilly Auto Parts events. He's probably going to run a majority of the road course race in 2026, but I actually think, I know the O'Reilly Auto Parts car is definitely different than the Cup Series car, but I think getting more experience on ovals is not a bad thing at this point. He did some Legends Cars events in 2025, and I think having that experience running Legends Cars and getting a win in Legends Cars, I think it really helped him get a lot better. And I think we, again, saw some massive improvement from Shane Van Gisbergen throughout 2025. So he's going to have some new sponsorship potential coming into the team. Kubota, I think, will also sponsor him next year. But I think it's a big deal for Shane Van Gisbergen to have some of those sponsors back in 2026. So now the big question is for Shane Van Gisbergen. How do I think he'll perform in 2026? Well, I think that Shane Van Gisbergen is going to continue winning races on road courses in 2026. I don't think Shane Van Gisbergen, though, is going to win every single race. I think that there's a very realistic chance and possibility that his rookie teammate Connor Zilisch will maybe get a road course win, but it won't be till the end of the year. I think Shane Van Gisbergen is going to win at least 3 or 4 NASCAR Cup Series races in the 2026 season. I think he scores a few wins there, and I do think that Shane Van Gisbergen will win those races. And I also think in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series next year, I think he's going to pick up a win or 2 in 2026 as well, maybe even more depending on the races that he does end up running. And it does, depending on if he does some oval races in 2026 in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, I think that Shane Van Gisbergen there will continue to improve and get better at those types of tracks. I also think in 2026, he is going to continue to improve on the ovals. I think Shane Van Gisbergen is going to not only score just one top 10 finish on the ovals, but I think by the end of the year, Shane Van Gisbergen is going from having at least one top 10 oval finish to having maybe even 5 or 6 oval top 10 finishes in 2026. The reason I mention this is because he's going to have to start improving on the ovals. We do not know what the format is going to be for 2026 in the NASCAR Cup Series at this point. It's going to be based more on consistency. see. And I think that's going to be something that Shane Van Gisbergen is going to have to be looking at. He's probably not going to have to 100% going to be able to fully 1,000% rely on winning or in being there. He's going to have to go out there and probably start performing a lot better on the ovals. And I expect that to happen for Shane Van Gisbergen in the 2026 year. I have the confidence and faith that he will be able to do that. But he's going to be running around a lot of the same guys in 2026. Of course, his teammates of Ross Chastain and Connor Zilisch. He's probably going to be running around guys like Brad Keselowski in 2026, Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece. On the road courses, you talk about guys like Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott, who's been a fantastic road course racer over the years. You think about Ty Gibbs, who in my opinion has got a really good chance of winning road course races in the future. And there's other drivers like a Kyle Larson, for example. And then, of course, I think there'll be other good drivers in the field, like a Kyle Busch, too, who could show up every once in a while and pick up a win in victory if RCR can bring the right equipment. And then Bubba Wallace at other types of tracks to be competing against. Ryan Preece, same thing. Carson Osbar, who had some really big flash of brilliance in 2025. And there's other drivers in the field that I have very big confidence can be major factors against him throughout the 2025 year. And also Junior Motorsports in the Daytona 500 will be in the field, so that's another team to watch out for in 2026. But I think for Shane Van Gisbergen, there is legitimate hype around him going into 2026. I really think that he is going to continue to get better because, like I mentioned, we don't know what the format is going to be. And I don't know if when you're in, it's going to stick around. It could be a chase format in 2026. I think that certainly could be a possibility for next year. And I think there's other potential formats that we could see changing in 2026. Because Shane Van Gisbergen's all-time goal is to become the winningest road course racer of all time. If he wins 4 more road course races in his career, which I think is certainly possible in 2026, Shane Van Gisbergen will become the winningest road course racer of all time. Currently, Jeff Gordon holds the mark with 9 wins. I believe Tony Stewart has 7 or 8 road course wins. Chase Elliott, I believe, also has 6 or 7 in his career. Chase Elliott is the closest, and then Kyle Larson's up there with around 5 or 6, I'm pretty sure. You got some other drivers getting up there that are kind of in that same general area at this point when it comes to it. But I think that Shane Van Gisbergen will break the record for the most road course wins. And by the end of Shane Van Gisbergen's career, I think it is very likely at this point that Shane Van Gisbergen is going to end up having about 20 to 25 wins. I do not think Shane Van Gisbergen will win an oval race in 2026. I think that comes in 2027. But I think top 5s and top 10s are going to start becoming more common. And let's say he even has double the amount of top 10s, has, let's say, 3 or 4 top 10s in particular by the end of the year. He could put himself in a top 10, top 15 range because the field is so competitive at this point with this next-gen car. I think he's going to continue building on his career. I also think he will make a truck series start at some point in 2026, depending on the eligibility requirements for 2026. Race San Diego is a prime example. I think he could join a team like Nice Motorsports. He drove for Nice at the race at IRP back in 2023. He could join a team like, well, probably not to call a Ram team because the Ram team's not going to be a thing because he's associated with Chevrolet. But could he join a team like McAnally Hilgeman, for example, for a truck race? I think that is certainly a possibility to watch out for. That team is still kind of in flux for 2026 because there's also for the Call team, you could have Casey Kane and Tony Stewart coming in. That is certainly a possibility at this point. Maybe Cletus Farland too. Who knows? But I think for Shane Van Gisbergen, I think the expectations are going to be somewhat high for him going into the 2026 season. And I'm very excited to see how things are going to go for him next year. I really think this team is going to bring some good pace and really strong speed. I think he will continue to improve with Trackhouse Racing. He'll stick around long term with the team and organization. And like I said, I do expect Shane Van Gisbergen to show some really solid and really good things. And again, he'll be competing against some other good drivers in the field, but I'm excited to see where things go for Shane Van Gisbergen in 2026. I think he'll perform pretty solidly next year. So that's going to today's video talking about how I think Shane Van Gisbergen will perform in 2026. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's get below that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. How do you think Shane Van Gisbergen will perform in the NASCAR Cup Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series in 2026? How many wins do you think he'll get in the 2026 season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series winner predictions video dropping on the channel. If we do get any other big news throughout the weekend, we'll discuss it live on the channel as well. On Monday, we're going to have a long NASCAR news video discussing all the news over the course of the last couple of days. days, including the junior motorsports news around them running the Daytona 500, the Ram calling news. We'll talk about Dana White and Casey Kane, Tony Stewart around that front. Also talk about the rules bulletin that came out this week. We did a video talk about that. Also talk about some lawsuit updates on the 2011 and Front Row Motorsports lawsuit. On Tuesday of this week, I'm probably going to have the next team preview. We're probably going to do a preview on Junior Motorsports for 2026, more than likely on Tuesday, and there's some other big content coming as well. Expect a silly season update most likely on Thursday of this week, but I'm not entirely sure at this point. Some other big videos are coming out, and if any other major news breaks, we'll discuss it live on the channel. We got content coming on people like Haley Deegan, Shaman Gisbergen, Carl Everts, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Boas, Ross Chastain, Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, Frankie Muniz, Cletus Farrell, Dodge, Ram, Will Brown, Brian Finney, Cam Waters, Case Kane, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, all the good stuff, and the Ram stuff too, and Connor Zillish and Junior Motorsports. Talk about all the stuff on the channel in the coming days and coming weeks as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content, other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.